Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Honestly, Let's Talk. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, and each week I look to bring you a variety of topics and conversations for us to just talk about with some of my favorite people. Now, back in August, I did a leading during COVID-19 conversation with some administrators from across the country, and I figured now that we've been a couple months of school now, since starting a new school year in the middle of a pandemic, let's readdress this and jump back in again. So I reached out to 5 of my friends, all who very quickly, thankfully, said yes, and I am excited for them to be here tonight. So I want them to introduce themselves to you. So we'll start right here with Sergio. You go first. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where you work.
Alrighty, so my name is Sergio Medina, and I'm the proud principal of Carroll Elementary in Aldine ISD. It's on the outside of Houston. So I'm here just to be here to share my story.
And you forgot first-year principal, too.
Yes.
First-year principal.
Trial by fire for you. Elle, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm Principal L. I am in my 21st year as a principal, 33 years as an educator, principal at Thomas Edison Charter School at K8, High Needs Charter in Wilmington, Delaware. I spent over 20 years in the Philadelphia School District. I am honored to be here with these awesome panelists. We were joking earlier in the green room that I'm the old man of the group, but I'm looking forward to learning from these folks. And Sergio, as a first-year principal, all I can say to you is que Dios te bendiga, señor.
There you go.
Tron, what about you?
I'm principal. This is my 9th year as a principal, 17th year in education. O'Fallon, Illinois, not by Chicago. Every time you say Illinois, people think Chicago. I'm down south, closer to the St. Louis, Missouri area, across the Mississippi. Middle school and loving life and enjoying the change every single day.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Emily?
Okay, I'm Emily Paschall, and I'm from Athens, Alabama. I know you can hear it in the accent. They already were teasing me in the green room. So, but I am an assistant principal. This is my 2nd year as an assistant principal, and we are. I'm in an elementary school that has about 600 students.
And last but definitely not least, Laquita.
I'm Laquita Outlaw. I am the principal at Bayshore Middle School, which is located in New York City on Long Island. I have a middle schooler 6 through 8, and I am now coming in my 20th year as principal. There, so you still are the oldest man in this room.
You look like you're just getting started. You got 20 more years than you.
I love it. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know in the midst of the 1,000 other things on your plate right now, this was probably the least important, but thank you for making time. And, I got to start right away with, when the pandemic hit in March, we were all gung-ho as we went and addressed things head on. Entering a new school year without any vacation or much of a break, we still kept the train moving forward. Now we're at end of October, beginning of November, and I know from every conversation I'm having across the country with leaders and teachers, it's rough out there right now. And so I obviously got to start with the first and foremost question. I'd love to know kind of just how you're holding up, and if there's anything you're doing specifically for you that is like, okay, this is helping me at least get out of bed the next day. Like, who knows about next week, but this is at least getting me to the next day. So Tron, we'll start with you. How are you holding up, and what are you doing to kind of maintain sanity?
Man, you know what? I would tell you each day is a different hold up. Each day brings a different thing. One thing I started, actually I started renewing my own personal health and fitness because I realized I was going fire to fire. And during this time, it was a fire every day and wasn't taking time for me. So I started running again. And now I'm making a commitment to working out at least 4 to 5 times a week. And it's so bad or so good, I would say, that I'll come home some days and I'm just like, my wife sees it on my face. She's like, go to the gym. Like, if not, it's not going to be a good night. So you just go to the gym, get it out, like go and then come back. And it's nice having her on my side of like realizing that and helping make sure I do some self-care as well. So that's kind of the self-care has become more important now. Yeah. No more having the excuses of I don't have time or all that. Like, it's important. It's so crucial.
Yeah. Well, Sergio, you're a first-year administrator, and I know a first-year principal. You've been an administrator before, but first-year principal, and how are you holding up in the midst of learning everything new, but also realizing very quickly that every single question teachers have, you probably don't have an answer for, like the rest of us, even if we have many years of experience. So how are you holding up, and what are you doing to maintain sanity? Because you've also got a new little one at home too.
Yes. So I'm a first year principal and it's my first time being a dad. So I'm juggling both.
Oh.
So, basically every morning I wake up and I just pump myself up because that's the first thing I need to do. I wake up and I'm like, we got this today. There's going to be challenges at school, but just waking up with that positive attitude right away, it helps me go to school, wake up and, just energize everybody else because everybody's going through what I'm going. And I'm that leader that needs to re-energize everybody else. So, but besides that, what I do is, Monday through Friday, I go really hard at school, but on Saturday, I let go. And that is kind of inspired from your book, Kids Deserve It, to learn how to disconnect. I disconnect and I spend time with my family. It actually, COVID's going on, but it has actually brought me closer to my family. We have more family meals. We spend more time together. So that kind of replenishes me week by week. So just doing that helps me and I'm ready to go back on Monday. And it's kind of a repeat, but it's never the same thing every week.
Well, let me tell you, bravo that you have learned the importance of disconnecting because that took me multiple years to figure out the importance of that. Well, Laquita, what about you?
Well, I'll ditto what Tron and what Sergio said, right? I do a little bit of rocking in the corner, back and forth often. I think I've probably drank more this year than I have ever in my life. But that's probably not what you're looking for.
No, that's real. That's real life. And I'm sure people listening right now are going, "Oh, I can connect with Laquita right there."
But the one thing during the day, yes, during the day that I do is that deep breathing. When they say take in 3 and release 3, I do that often because I think that it relieves a lot of the pressure that's on both my shoulders and my chest. And I try to just for a moment relax for a bit so that I am not answering and responding through emotion to people, that I am doing so with some clear head.
Yeah. Elle, what about yourself?
I as soon as the pandemic hit, I became a huge Peloton fan. So I've had my own home gym for almost 15 years, never knowing that a pandemic was coming. But once the pandemic hit, I was already equipped and ready to, because as Tron said, that physical and mental, and same as Laquita and all the others, the physical and the mental are so connected, and they impact the emotional. And, as leaders, we have to provide that strength, even on those tough days, for others. And one of the things you talked about in the opening was how schools just had to drop everything and go right to remote. We had to start serving some kids and making sure they had everything they needed. And we did all of that with no additional funding. Schools were the only ones that they weren't sending, stimulus checks to. And when we had to provide more than what we were providing before. So, it's a blessing that I had the opportunity to be able to exercise, change my diet, connect with other administrators around the world, talking to you from time to time, connecting on social media, best practices, what are strategies, how can we stay in touch and uplift these students, and finally using our light and encouraging teachers. We are a light for kids. Don't use that light as a burden. Use it as a light of hope, a beacon of hope for children, because they are resilient and these teachers are resilient. And that's what keeps us going every day.
I love that.
Principal Yale, you about to make me say amen on this message.
I was thinking he's taking us to church already.
Raise it up. Because listen, this work is a ministry, brother. You know that.
Oh, amen. Hey, yes, I agree.
That keep you on your toes and your knees every day. But you know what? As much as we complain, there's nothing else we'd rather be doing than serving these folks here. You know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Emily, what about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, just what they were saying, I was over here thinking, yep, everything everybody was saying. But, I just realized like when March hit, it was almost like how I describe it is all of a sudden, we all in our schools had these used cars, what I like to call it. Like we were all driving our cars and everything was working pretty good, right? We all had different areas that we needed to grow, but we were doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden, March 13th for us was like a car wreck across the nation, and we all were wrecked. And it was just like, not only at school, but in our lives, like we were thinking, how are we going to function? Everything has shut down. Everything has shut down, and it was hard. And so, with everything that they were saying, self-care had to be number one, so that I could not only be my best self, but I could be the best mom, to my family, and then also at school, so I could be the best leader that I needed to be for the teachers and the students. And so I just had to pour into myself a little bit every single day to help give myself that reset and that clarity that when I run, I'm just a runner. And so that's where I'm able to just kind of think everything through. And, then after that, am able to keep moving forward each.
I love that. And, I think something that you said too, that I remember talking with some other administrators about that is so unique about the principal role this year is that you had to redesign every piece of your school, things that you had never had to think about before. Like as a principal, I never had to walk on campus and go, are we going to be able to use water fountains? And if so, how are we going to be able to use those? It's like something as unimportant as that. But the moment you don't have a plan for like water fountains, the 6 parents are going to come up and say, what's your plan for water fountains? We need your plan. We need to know how you're going to, and you're like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that yet. And that's just one tiny little piece I know of the constant things that you had to rethink it all. So, I can't even imagine and I know everybody in education and all walks of life right now are learning new stuff, but the principalship is in a very unique, and the assistant principalship is a very unique role right now in literally rethinking every minute of every day for our kids. And so during this time of being quarantined at home or going and trying to do a hybrid or starting virtual and then going fully in person or whatever it is we're all doing, we've learned a lot about ourselves, whether that's things we're learning about ourselves personally or things that we've learned about ourselves professionally. So I'd love to know something you've learned about yourself during this time. And Elle, we'll start with you.
I'll tell you what I learned about myself is I've learned that I need to be more patient with people, more understanding. I need to offer more grace and more empathy. We're all going, because not only were we going through a pandemic, but we also lived through a huge social justice movement where we witnessed, issues of police brutality and questions of equality and equity. And I think, and even looking at the diversity of this panel, it shows me how you've given a lot of thought to making sure that you wanted to make sure that there was gender diversity here, racial diversity across the nation. So kudos to you. But I think that we all sort of had to look at our practices. And I think it's what it forced me to do is to make sure that I'm looking at what I'm doing and understanding that everybody may not move at that same pace. And I need to be understanding and willing to wait on them, especially talking about these issues of race and eradicating racism, because some folks still believe that systemic racism doesn't even exist. Right. But it's going to be our job as educators, because as teachers and administrators, we've always been at the forefront of this conversation, of this movement. It's what we do. So what I've learned about myself is that I am resilient, I am strong, but I've still got a way to go, because I can't expect everyone to move at the same pace that I'm moving at, and I need to offer more grace. And so that's what if I want folks to have that hope in sight, I've got to be offering that same empathy and love and understanding that I'm asking others to do too.
That's some great advice, some great words. I think that for anybody can take and run with, especially that grace and patience and empathy. I think we can all always be practicing that. So thank you for sharing that, Elle. Laquita, what about you?
I've learned that I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Woo! One of the hardest things for me, because as principal, you feel like any question that comes your way, you're supposed to be the person who resolves it all. And so the teachers and parents were coming with questions that I had not yet thought about. like you mentioned, experienced because this is new for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat back trying to answer those questions without giving thought. And then someone would say, well, what about this? And I'm like, oh, you're right. Okay. Then I had to backtrack a little bit. And that to me was worse than just taking a moment up front and giving myself time to think. So I started with a lot of, let me think about that. I'm going to get back to you. And with that, it has spared me lots of angst and probably saved me a time or two. So.
And I think that that's something so important people to remember is, I can so relate to you with that, Laquita, about I want to have the answers. I want to solve the problems. But I know specifically speaking as a Texas administrator, even when administrators in our state during this time would have an answer, our state education agency or our governor makes a new decision that then makes us have to change all the work we just spent weeks doing. And now we have to go back and say, everything I told you, erase it. We're going to start over again and now go by these rules. And so I think that's another added element of not only are we struggling with having all the answers right now, but even when you do solve something, who knows how long that solution's going to hold on. And so what about you, Sergio? What have you learned?
So I'm going to piggyback on Principal L and Laquita. Something that I've learned is that I don't have to have all the answers myself, but that I can rely on my team. And that goes from my APs, my teachers, and my community. And I think during this time, it's really brought us together a little bit closer, especially with the community, because before beginning or bringing kids back, I would have like Zoom sessions with the parents and like listen to them. What are their concerns? What are some ideas that they're thinking? But it's really cool that, normally the principal, leadership is the ones that come up with all the decisions. But now it's like, so what are you thinking about 5th grade? Like now we can't host you in the classroom. What is the way that you really want to set it up? So it's not, I like what you said, Laquita. We don't have to have all the answers. You can, work with others to make sure that those plans come out. And honestly, it has really saved me this school year because it's not my decisions, it's our decisions. And it's helping us like, okay, he was really thinking about us and, during this process.
I love that. That's such a silver lining moment of you're like, well, you know what? At least it allowed us to do this and bring that together. So thanks for sharing that. Emily, what about you?
Okay, so just building off kind of what everybody else was saying, was just that we just didn't have all of these answers. And like back to March 13th, when we had that car wreck all of a sudden, and we were just at this stop and we're like, and that night teachers were texting me, so what now, what Miss Paschall? Now what, Miss Paschall? And I'm like, I don't know, and so the biggest thing that I remember that night, this was before it had really hit Alabama. And so, before we were in a stay-at-home order or anything like that, but our staff got together one night and we were like, we got to make a plan. At that point we knew we were not going to be together again for who knows how long. And so we got together and we made a plan, and the teachers just kind of decided what they were going to do over those next few months and just really started collaborating. And so one of the biggest things I learned, not only about myself, but just about teachers across the nation and about educators across the nation, is the two biggest things that we've got to hold on to as educators are compassion and grit to be truly effective. And, we can have that compassion piece of that bless your heart mentality, which I call it because we say that every day in Alabama, whether we are really feeling sorry for somebody or if they tell a bad joke, that's what we say. Oh, bless their heart. Like, this is terrible. Okay, but what about the grit piece? Because that's what's going to get you through it. We got to have that compassion, but then you got to have the grit to get through it. And so just seeing that educators are doing whatever it takes to rebuild this car, this car wreck, and rebuild it. Because the thing is, sciences don't make or break a school's culture, they reveal it. And so seeing the grit that educators have across the country to restore this car to something brand new and beautiful, that's been incredible. I haven't learned it just about everybody.
I love that. You had so many little nuggets in there. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go back and listen to some of this because there were so many little good nuggets in there. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Tron, what about you?
Man, it was an affirmation, but then a realization of like, this is a marathon and not a sprint, right? people like there are people trying to sprint through and like make these quick adjustments and buy this quick program and do all this other good stuff and like Laquita said, like making these instant decisions and sitting back, and it was like, okay, this is a marathon. So literally, we would get together as a principal team, and I would stand up and open our big whiteboard, and they're like, all right, here goes Dr. Young. And I say, okay, so what are we tasking today? Okay, we're going to look at lunches. Okay, so what we're going to do K2, because that's different than your 3-4, which is then different than my 5-6. Okay, so what happens when, and Jess would go through all of that, and it was like, hey, we're not trying to sprint through that. Like, let's take that time, like we said, and like look at all these scenarios. And through that marathon, when things happen, we had plan A, B, C, and D done as a team. So when we had the shift, it was like, okay, wait, let's go back to those notes. Okay, we had a framework for that. Like, it wasn't like, let's sprint to it. Let's get there. And I think the other realization during that marathon, I realized that you either make adjustments or you make excuses. Right? So during this time, you can either adjust to what's going on and you can make things happen and be there, or you can make excuses why things can't happen, why you can't do something. And like Emily said, it really shows your environment, right? It shows your school system about who you are and about what you believe you can do as a group of people. And so I'm really proud of our district, of my staff, because and I think you all will say it, like, they've jumped on this and they slowed down. They had to get some water. They may even tumbled and cried and thought they had to stop, but realizing like, no, we're going to get back up and we're going to finish this 26.2, I think it is. I've never ran that in my life and don't plan to, but I'm on this journey with you guys.
Oh man, that was great.
You can do it. You can do it.
Well, and I love what you said there about excuses too, because, I've always said an excuse is just an adult's polite way of saying, I don't want to do it. Right. Because if we truly stop and take the time to figure it out, we can figure out a solution or something that will work that temporarily. Otherwise, we're just sitting there and complaining and making an excuse. And so, the next question I want to ask y'all is, as you know, and as any educator that's listening to this knows, these times are hard. And our staff at our schools are tired. They are feeling like it's April instead of like it's October. They don't know. There's so many things that they don't know the answers to too, that's overwhelming them. And a lot of people are feeling unsuccessful regardless of how well they really are doing. And as leaders, all 6 of us here know that our job, one of our most important jobs on campus, is to uplift our people, to keep them going. And I've always said one of my biggest jobs as principal was to find something to take off their plates. Well, this year, there's not very much that we are legally able to take off their plates and still do the 1,000 things the government or the state are asking us to do. And so I'd love to know, what's something that you've done this semester that has really seemed to connect with your people or has helped uplift them at least for an hour, if no more than that. And so we'll start with you, Emily.
Okay, so I'll tell you the biggest thing that, let me preface with this. Our school, we are back in school in the building, and we have about 80% of our kids back in the building. Only about 20% chose to go virtual, and it might be a little over 80. So, and with the 600 kids as an student body, we really had to think things through. And so it's a pretty big staff. So one of the biggest things, our federal programs director actually came up with this idea, and she did this for every one of our schools, is she hired through CARES Act funds 2 permanent subs to be in every single school. And so, and they are there every day, whether we need them or not for a COVID reason. And it has just been absolutely it's been the best thing that we could have ever had, because they provide extra planning time for teachers. If we don't need them for another reason, they go and give them duty free. If a teacher did have to go home, they're right there, and it's pressure off of Mr. Garner. My principal and me, y'all don't know Mr. Garner. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, but it has been the biggest morale booster, having these 2 permanent subs in our building. Just what all that they are able to do to help these teachers, and they go and make copies for them, or we've been able to just allow them to have some collaborative time as grade levels. And if you are going back in the building soon, if you haven't already, or if that's something your school is struggling with, highly recommend. It's the best. I wish we could have them every year.
That's a great idea, and it's a great way to use those funds in a way that will benefit a lot of people. And like you said, it's not just for the teachers and staff. It's for you as an administrator. Like when there's all of a sudden you get a call that one of your teachers tested positive, and you got to figure out a plan real quick. There's somebody there to jump into that. And I see even listening now, like Ashley Smith said, their district did it too, and it's been a lifesaver. So I love that idea.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Tron?
Man, so it seems like what worked yesterday doesn't work today.
Yep.
And my biggest thing is what I realize is it's my veteran teachers that are struggling the most, because it's those relationships that they built on that filled that bucket that didn't allow for them to get those bucket fillers, right? So a lot of times we were all virtual there, and we now just have our kids coming back, and I have about 70%. And so most of their time was spent on working on those students who were struggling and trying to get them and looking at all the kids who aren't doing the work, who aren't turning in, and then to get those bucket fillers of those kids and seeing that aha moment and all those things. So I actually started got a You Uplift wall where teachers or students can submit a positive comment, and it's like a scrolling, rotating virtual platform. And so when kids or a parent gives me something positive, I put it up out there and everyone can see it. And so it's like normally that moment will be just between the teacher and the parent or that kid. But now it's like it's anonymous. I don't say who, what, when, but I'm just saying whatever they tell me. Thank you, Mrs. James, for making me love social studies again. Thank you, right? Like, or if a student helping, and I put that out there, or students can put comments out there, teachers can, and it's just been a nice thing that allows us to focus. I used to do positive phone calls home, right? So it's that option of like still having that moment where we are uplifting each other in our culture, in our building, and that's been something that has been really nice, because when they forget about it, now that we're in live, when we have our advisory, I have them put it on their screen so it's rotating, everyone sees it, and so it's still that reminder that you're still making a difference and you're still making an impact. And then the last thing I start doing is I started it this week. Now that we have people inside, we started the year with a positive letter writing campaign to all of our kids, and every kid gets a positive letter from our school by the end of the first quarter. Now I'm doing a positive letter to the family of my teachers, thanking them for supporting them during the challenging time. So I started that this week and doing a couple of teachers a day. And so wanting to see that impact that, hopefully they're not watching, but if they are, now they know, expecting that to come. But man, I just need them to know, because you can tell that to them, but really doing those tangible things that they can hold on to during this time, because it's rough.
I love those are so good ideas, and I love too that they're ideas that don't cost any money, and they take a little bit of time, but not like exorbitant amount of time either. So that was a great idea to share. Elle, what about you?
I'll tell you one of the things that I thought was sort of very powerful. I was talking with a teacher, and she was explaining how she loves to split her screens and how challenging it is from home and working with kids, and she said it'd be great if I had an iPad and an Apple Pencil, because I could do so much, and then the kids could write, and I could write on documents. And I said, wow, that's great. So I met with my team, and I said, do you think all of the teachers, if I offered it to them, would want an iPad and an Apple Pencil? They was like, what? You mean, would they? So I said, let's put it out there. Everybody, I had grandmothers saying, I want an iPad. So we got the board to approve it. We used CARES Act funds, of course, and we had iPads and Apple Pencils for every teacher to help them. I told them anything you need to be an effective teacher, most effective from home in this remote environment, we want to provide it for you. And then they also said that the students sometimes would have trouble hearing, and we have some students whose parents drop them off at daycare centers, so they're on Zoom from daycare centers. And if any of your teachers can share that with you, that's a challenge. When I go on some of these Zooms, it's a challenge with some of the day. So we also purchased a headset with a microphone for every student in our school from K to 8. Everyone has a headphone, and microphone, and it's made a huge difference. But it showed our staff how we were committed to them as instructional leaders, and for them as teachers to support their efforts, at home. And I think just spiritually, it really lifted them because it started with one teacher who was willing to ask, and it just opened it up a blessing for, everybody in the school.
I love that. That's greatness there. Sergio, what about you?
So for me, it's like a combination of almost what everybody said. We have something called the CARES team. So at the very beginning of the school year, we had our counselor, just different people that we use, our music teacher, PE teacher that came together and really took a load off of the teachers at the beginning when we were virtual. They were the ones that would get on the bus. They would visit homes. Are they missing hotspots? Are they missing computers? Do you need like the instructions of how to get onto Schoology? So they were the people that were helping the teachers make sure that all the students were on. So that's something that we offered the teachers so, they could feel like that weight load go a little bit down. For us, now that we're on campus, is being visible. That has always been my go-to, making sure that they see me in the hallway. And right now I have a little scooter that I ride down the hallway. I'm like, hey, I need this scooter so I can go from the 200 hallway all the way to the 800 hallway. And they know, hey, Mr. Medina is going to be coming by. But the thing that I love is when I stop by, they have, concerns like, hey, just like you said, if I could have an iPad or this, or if I could, air server my phone to this, it would be better. And I like that they're open to just talk to me and like, hey, I've done that before. So I share that solution with them. But it just goes from having teams help you, being visible. And then my biggest go-to right now, and my school is catching on since I'm a first-year principal, they know that I love to shout them out. And it's not a bragging thing that I want to share to the district. It's because I really value their work. So beyond just going through COVID right now, we're also going through a change of literacy. And it's something new. It's like a big thing to take on. And they're showing me that they can do it. So I'm like constantly just shouting them out and pushing them through this tough time of COVID, but also a tough time of learning a new curriculum as well.
I love that. Anytime you can remind somebody of the great work they're doing or the importance that they bring to your team, that's always gold. So I love that you shared that. And I've got to find a picture of you on that scooter now. I know you probably share it on social media, so I'm going to have to go find one.
Definitely. I was like, when I become principal, I'm going to buy me a scooter and I'm going to go through the hallways with it.
I love it. Laquita, what about you?
Well, I think compassion, which is what everyone shared, is what's essential right now. And so there's a couple of things that I've been doing. Principal Allison Apsey, if you don't follow her, I certainly encourage you to do so. She has a blog that she writes, and in it, she talked about a quick weekly check with staff. Every Monday, she sends out a one-question survey. That one-question survey is just, how you doing? Ready for the week? What do you need? Which goes along with what Principal L and everybody has said. And so with that check, when they put in whatever it is that they're feeling, that level of frustration or that appreciation or whatever it is, I make sure to go and see each and every person who has said that they are experiencing some level of stress. And I make sure that whatever it is that they are asking for, if I'm able to give it, I do. And most often, all that is my attention and my ear.
Yeah.
And that I can give all day long. And then the other thing that I try to do is during the holidays, I would always do the 12 days of Christmas, right? So 12 days leading up to Christmas, I give a little something. Well, this last week, I had the little pumpkin carving kits. Someone had given me a whole bunch. And so I created a little note that reminded them that this is also a good time to give to family now. So turn things off for a little bit and spend that time with family. All the work that you've done is appreciated, and now give that to your loved ones. And that was a big hit. So I was grateful that I just wanted them to see that, one, I understood what they were going through, care deeply for them, but now I wanted them to spend time with the people who were also very important, and that's their family.
I love that. And Allison Apsey is a great resource as well, like you said. And I love that weekly check-in where it's really quick, one question, how are you doing? I know when this pandemic was going on back in April and May, a principal said, you know what? I was sending out emails just saying, let me know if you need anything. I'm here to support you. And she goes, when you send that out, it doesn't feel very personal, or people are like, I don't want to pour out to you. She goes, so I just would text people in different small groups and say, you five, hey, you five, just send me a GIF right now expressing how you're feeling. And she said, I got way more honesty out of the gifts, GIF, they chose than out of if I would have said, tell me what you're doing. She goes, because when they show, and I did that the other day on social media, and I was like, goodness, people will find some really creative things that express the way they feel more than their own words. So I thought that was brilliant too. But
I'm going to try that. I love that.
if you do, Laquita, you'll have to let me know how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as we close out today, what is that, El?
I said it's a lot safer too because they're not really expressed. Some people, like I said, I have to be more patient because everybody's not as vocal as we are. So some people may not want to express it in words, but if they can post a give a gift. So I'm waiting for Laquita's highlight. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for.
There we go. Well, as we wrap up today, I just want to end on one quick question, and that is, what is a really brief word of advice or word of encouragement you would have to other leaders who might be listening or other educators in general? And so we'll start with you, Tron.
I would say what I would always tell people is to make a difference. You have to do the things that others may not think to do to get the results that others are not able to get. And during this time, that's what we're doing in the business of education. We're making adjustments and not excuses. So continue to do the things that others may not think to do to get the results that others are not able to get.
I love it. Laquita?
I just think of the 2 F's. And I think about forgiveness and flexibility. And those are the 2 words that I'm leading with this year, being forgiving of myself, forgiving of others, knowing that we are all going through, every person that we walk by is going through more than we ever would know from the smile on their face. And then the other is being flexible because like was already said, every time you turn around, everything you put in place has to be a little different tomorrow. And I think as a principal, I felt as if I was always reacting to everything that was coming my way. And it isn't my nature. And so when I wasn't able to sit back, process, and then give very thoughtful, detailed information quickly, it was wearing on me. So I started to make sure that I gave myself a little bit of room and that I said, it's okay. Just put one foot in front of the other, make it through this year, because this is the first year that we are all experiencing what we're going through right now. And so if next year, God forbid, we had to go through this again, we would all approach it differently because we would have information we don't have right now. Yeah. And so we just need to make it through this year, and we will.
It's everybody's first year this year, every single person. So Sergio, what about you? What word would you leave people with today?
I don't want to really leave it with a word. It's more like just think about how much stronger we're going to come out by going through this. And I've told teachers, like, right now it feels so uncomfortable. And I don't want to say, like, yes, this is uncomfortable that we've always been saying, like, before, like, innovate. And we were forced to do it through this pandemic. But just think about, like, what we're feeling, and then, like, what our students are going to be able to do after this. Like, we really pushed the technology divide. Like, it's just, we're going to be way stronger as a nation, seeing everybody after this.
I love it. Emily?
Okay, so I guess mine would be just we're in broken situations or tough situations, that there's always beauty to be found and opportunities to be found, but we've got to look for the beauty. And that starts from the top. And so as administrators, we've got to be the opportunities that we're not yet seeing in these tough times and look for the beauty. And when we model that, other teachers and kids and parents are going to follow. And so when we're choosing that positivity, and other people are going to carry the banner with us for our school. And that's what you want, is other people carrying the banner with you. Because if you're doing it by yourself, you're going to be on an island. But if you can figure out ways to find that silver lining and find the beauty and find the opportunities, your culture is going to grow and you're going to be better for it on the other side.
I love it. Well, Elle, bring us home.
So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to give you a summary of what everybody else said. I'm not going to give you anything original. What these folks said tonight was so powerful. I'm just going to summarize. So it's like the kids say, what he said, right? But basically what I heard from them is that we have to realize the impact that we are making. Tron talked about choosing impact over compliance, right? We know what we have to do, but do the extra that other folks may not want to do. I heard about flexibility, being flexible. With flexibility comes longevity. If we don't bend, we break. So we have to understand how important it is for us to be flexible and know that we don't have all the answers. Like other folks know more than we do. We should be building learning cultures, not teaching cultures, right? So I also heard that these are tough situations we're in. Don't just go through the situation, grow through it, right? You heard Sergio. You know, he's a first-year principal, but he's not new to this. He's true to this. And so, they're sharing that we need to be passionate about this. And what you heard Emily talk about was choose positivity, choose that positive energy. Don't allow that negative energy, in your space. So my words that I'm going to give to you, Todd, for all that you've done for educators, not just in Texas, but around the country, is that we are grateful, we're thankful, and we are blessed, right? Because we choose to be blessers and not stressors. So that's what as our children continue to move through this, and our teachers, we have to make sure that we realize that we are, although we may not be popular all of the time, as you know, right? Leadership is about service. If you don't serve, you can't lead. Yeah. And finally, to all my APs, Emily's an AP, I got principal leaders. We know our APs are important in times like this. They are our backup. And when people act up, we call our backup, right? So shout out to our APs as well. And God bless you folks. And thanks. Hopefully we'll follow each other on social media, stay in touch. I believe God connects everybody for a reason. And Todd, you were the catalyst through this. You've been a change agent, for years. And I'm just proud to be in your space, brother.
Man, you said you weren't going to bring anything new, but I don't know. I may be stealing that be a blesser, not a stressor one that you said. But I love that.
I'm speaking the truth, man. It's that's from the heart. That is from the heart. And I appreciate all that you guys do. And we learn. And you heard the authenticity tonight. Nobody on here said, I'm principal of the year. Listen to me. They all talked about the vulnerability. They talked about how they're depending on other people, how folks are counting on gifts to get information and react. You got to do whatever it takes. That's what it's about.
That's right. Well, you five are doing incredible work along with the other educators and leaders across the country right now. And so for me to you, I want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me on this week's episode of Honestly Let's Talk. I want to thank everybody for listening or watching another episode. Remember, you can check out a brand new episode of Honestly Let's Talk every Thursday at 8 p.m. or go and download it on your favorite podcast or on YouTube. Thank you five so much. And everybody have a great